Hey, all right. Well, I'm really happy to have Shelly Palmer back for another conversation on what's going on with disruptive new media technologies. Just to recap, in the last couple of weeks since we spoke, it's been mind-blowing. I mean, we had Microsoft back Mistral launched a new large version that can reason. We've had a TikTok ban officially passed by the House. Um, we had the FCC weigh in and decide that broadband now needs to be 100 megapixels per second, which is something. Wired announced they're getting into a political vertical. NewsGuard announced that they're launching a new service for fake brand narratives. Let's see, and Kate Middleton dominated the news cycle by altering, or supposedly her altering, some images of the royal family. Did I leave anything out?
Well, let's see. Darwin AI got bought by Apple, and Devin, the first autonomous engineer, showed up this week too. So yeah, look, you left a couple things out. Inflection 2.5, the new model underlying Pi, the friendlier, more EQ centric AI model launched. What else happened this week? It's been a whirlwind. Yeah, a lot of stuff's going on, Joe. Let's just say it. A lot of stuff's going on.
So on the Darwin AI play, I mean, Apple's been buying up startups. Do they have a strategy?
There's so much AI inside of Apple that no one thinks about, cares about. You know, the computational photography in your iPhone, the ability to hold an image and have it silhouette and become part of a meme instantly. Uh, Portrait mode, cinematic mode, like you name it, it's AI based in the phone. What's I think demonstrable and sad is how bad Siri is. Right,
Mhm.
Siri is just awful, and considering how good some of the generative AI tools are with natural language understanding and natural language processing, there's no reason for Siri to be that bad. So I'm assuming that in iOS 18, which we'll learn about at WWDC in June, we're going to see a whole new like thing.
Okay.
And my assumption is that Darwin AI is just part of an ongoing, get a brain trust together that can build these tools for them because they have something that they can do with it. Unlike our friends at Google, who have not demonstrated an ability to get out of their own way with their consumer launches. And by the way, Google is 100% an AI company. They invented Transformers for all intents and purposes. It's like, come on, how are they stumbling like this? They are. And Microsoft's marketing, I mean, there's nobody here is doing this, right? Microsoft named everything Copilot, literally everything. This Copilot, that Copilot, Copilot for this, Copilot for this. Like, guys, come on. You can't even figure out. You look at the menu of Copilots, you can't figure out what to deploy where and who to do it for. And then the fun fact for everybody listening, when you think Copilot's going to be great with Microsoft Office, which you may think again, because if you're going to use Copilot for Excel, which is like the number one thing you want Copilot for, you have to have OneDrive or Azure set up. It won't work on your own hard drive. It's like, wait a minute, and if your company's not an Azure or a OneDrive shop, oops, then
Right.
having Microsoft Office with Copilot doesn't help. Like that kind of nonsense has got to stop. And it's everywhere. It's not just any one company making a mess. OpenAI, they seem to have a lock on all of it right now, and they are the Kleenex and Band-Aid of the business. So
So a lot going on, a lot of conflation, as you point out, even with terminology like Copilot. And I do think OpenAI seems to have the most concerted strategy to go to market. Everybody's breaking things fast, obviously. But that demo they did with the Wall Street Journal this week kind of set a lot of minds a titter that, we're not ready for prime time yet. What do you think?
I think the problem isn't that the technology is not ready for prime time, which it isn't. First of all, it's new. It's that expectations are so high and the bifurcated populace makes it hard when you're explaining you're losing and no one wants to hear the explanation. Here's the explanation. Generative AI is not AI. It's generative AI.
Right.
AI is a catch-all phrase, could mean anything. You have to qualify it. Do I mean a neural network? Is it supervised or unsupervised? Do I mean statistical machine learning? Like, what am I doing, and what am I using the artificial intelligence for? And what am I trying to automate? Like when I say artificial intelligence, it's some kind of super automation. Then what am I automating? It's going to be a cognitive, non-repetitive task, like a white collar worker would do. Okay, that's called data processing. Take it to the next level. Like what are we trying to do here? So if you understand the limitations of a word calculator, which is what generative AI is, then it's doing exactly what you think it's supposed to do, the way you think it's supposed to do it. And every time they enhance it with a feature that makes you feel like it could be more human-like, you tend to anthropomorphize it.
Sure.
So it can reason, you said in your opening. It can do certain things that look like reason. We haven't quite seen reason in the human sense of the word yet. And I don't have good explanations from anyone about what that means. If you take GPT-4 Turbo without any additional plugins or help, and you give it a weird equation, 2 times 6 to the 8th divided by the cube root of 9 or something. I mean, just like some weird thing that really doesn't match a form. It'll get it wrong most of the time. There's a small non-zero chance it'll get it right, but mostly it's going to get it wrong every time. However, if you ask it to teach you how to do that weird little equation you put in, there's a better than 90% chance it's going to get it right. No one can explain this. That looks like the device, the model is reasoning the way you and I would think about reason. I'm going to teach you step by step what it is, reason through the problem, and ta-da, I got it right. So why, when I flat out ask you, you get it wrong, but when you reason through it, you get it right? That's a little bit weird. It's a little weird, a little spooky, and it causes people to think a little harder about what this is. So yeah, we are not ready for prime time for 2 reasons. One, the tech isn't there, and 2, people refuse to spend a few minutes to understand what the expectations should be. If you think that this is a skills democratizer, you are doomed. It's a skills amplifier at the moment. I am sure, as sure as we're sitting here, Joe, I am sure that sometime in the future, tomorrow, next week, 3 months, 5 years, 10 years, sometime in the future, I don't know when, you will have skills democratization. And what I mean by that is you'll have things like social production. Joe will describe some scene, and the scene will happen. And the more detailed you describe it, the more detailed it will be. And if you ask it for dialogue, it'll do it. And if you ask it to continue the dialogue, it
Mhm.
will do everything at some point. But we're nowhere near that,
Right.
or it's coming out tomorrow afternoon. And I don't know which, and neither does anybody else. So right now, the managed expectation is we've got 3 buckets: productivity, talking to data, and new product. Productivity is what you're getting from the Copilot world, right? Everybody gets some assistance, some kind of co-pilot that will help you be more productive at your job. And so it differentiates no companies, no marketers, no anybody. The only thing that happens is that if you as a leader can innovate workflow and process at the same intensity and vigor and at the same pace as the tech is coming, you might be able to help your teams differentiate themselves by doing more work, more productive work in a shorter period of time that has higher levels of efficacy. Talking to data means just that, using these tools to shorten the distance between the game of telephone we play with our programmers and the database. You have a database, a programmer, and you have a dashboard and a report. You say, oh, I need to fix my dashboard, which requires an iterative game of talking to people who interface with the data in the language of computers as opposed to your language. But now you can use natural language tools like ChatGPT. You build a little chat client, and you have the executives talking directly to the database as opposed, with a chat client. What's the last day I can sell a widget before I have to do whatever to it? That's talking to data. And then new product is just what you think it is. It's brand new product. It's like, can I make a new consumer experience, a new way to interface with the idea, surface something, do something new? So these 3 buckets are the buckets that are most likely happening in a way that are impactful. And everyone's trying to take it to the next level. And I think we're not helped as an industry, as a world actually, by companies like OpenAI saying flat out, well, our goal, our North Star is artificial general intelligence. We're going to build artificial general or artificial super intelligence equal to a human or surpassing human intelligence. And so if people think that's the goal and that's the stated goal, when you come up short of that, then you kind of lose sight of like all the things it's doing all around us. And now it's like, well, it's not a person. It's like, no, it's none of those things. It's like, it's
Well,
unlikely to be.
how else are you going to raise trillions of dollars in capital unless you have a pitch like that?
Yeah,
Um,
good point.
Despite its clunkiness with that demo, I do think OpenAI sources got in people's minds around the idea that maybe this could, text to video, democratize creation of video. And we saw this week that Adobe's stock tanked, attributed mainly to the lack of future AI earnings growth, but attributed indirectly to the fact that competition is coming along. I'm wondering if we're going to see the agency holding company stocks take a tank. Um, this is democratizing video creation.
It's democratizing all kinds of creation. And the first thing that goes are is the plumbing, resizing artwork into all the various um, things specified on the deliverables list, all the IAB standard units, all the whatever. The next thing that goes are the things that are done by rules. So if you want to understand who's coming for you and where and why and what's really going to hurt is anything that you follow rules to create, because that's not a creative job. It requires an aesthetic sense and it requires an understanding. Did this particular headline conform to the typographic specifications? Is it kerned properly? Is the leading correct? Is the font itself the right font? And you can be taught to do that, but you're taught to do that following a set of rules. And if that headline doesn't and subhead don't conform to the rules, then you're going to fix them. So anybody who does that and calls it creative is in serious trouble. Now, when I saw the Sora demo, the original Sora demo a 2 weeks ago, I guess now.
Mhm.
If you go to the Sora site, at least at the moment, in top carousel and you go to the right, there's a picture, a video, a few seconds long, of what looks like a drone shot of the Pacific Palisades. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
I've shot that shot as a second unit director, once when I got out of college and once about 10 years ago. When I got out of college, it was called a West Cam shot. I don't know if you remember that terminology.
Yeah.
West Cam was the rig that they put the camera in the front of the helicopter. It was my first ever helicopter ride. It was one of those helicopters with the glass bottoms,
Mhm.
like all kind of a glass bubble. I'd
Sure.
never been so scared in my life. I'd never been in a helicopter. And I certainly had never been that high off the ground in a thing I could look down and see. It was frightening, beyond frightening. And I was with this helicopter pilot, and I'm second unit director, and we're shooting. It was called the time of day is called the gloaming. It's this like a golden time is another way it's described, a golden hour in the film business.
Mhm.
And you're looking for the sun's like just about to set. There's a certain number of clouds on the way. It's a beautiful day. You get this golden light falling on the shoreline or falling on whatever it is you're shooting, and you want to keep the helicopter's shadow out of the shot because the sun's right coming at you. And then you're shooting the Pacific Palisades and you're getting this thing, and it's 4 or 5 seconds long, and they're going to use it for an interstitial as the car's traveling up the PCH or whatever, and they cut to this to denote the passage of time with a slow dissolve. They slow dissolve out of it, and now the person's like pulling into the driveway wherever they're going. So I've shot that shot. It was $80,000 the day I shot it in 1980 something dollars when I got out of school. I got out of school a couple of years. The next time I shot it was I want to say a decade ago, but it wasn't a helicopter shot anymore. West Cam, it was a drone shot. But
Mhm.
back then, I don't know if it's still true. When I did it, you had to hire an FAA licensed drone pilot because the drones were so big they had to be flown by professional drone flyers. You needed a license because the camera was so heavy. And that shot still cost like 45, 50 grand because they had to go. And we also had to wait for the weather.
Mhm.
Now, I want to tell you something. As a producer of anything, and I produced, I don't know how many TV commercials, and I cannot tell you how many pieces of music in my career, but it's in the thousands. I'm a factory. And you just showed me a way that in about 20 minutes, I can describe something, not worry about the weather, not worry about insurance, not worry about schedule, not worry about who my first or second unit are. I get that 4 or 5 seconds of video that I need for whatever OpenAI wants to charge me, and it could be anywhere up to 40 grand, I'm writing the check.
Right.
In fact, if it was the same 40 grand, I'd probably write the check, and it won't be. It'll be free or close to free.
Well, that's a very powerful anecdote to end this week's conversation on a gloaming note. Thank you for sharing.